Today we're going to show you how to do a scratch repair in your vehicle in case time or resources don't allow you to get to a professional body shop. Hi, I'm Neil from Whitelaw Automotive, and the reason for doing this video today is not only so you have a better idea of how to do the repair, but so when you get home and are ready to do the repair, you have all the supplies you need. It's important to know that we have 3 types of aerosols we sell here at Whitelaw's, each suited for a different situation. Firstly, we offer air dry, which is the least expensive, as well as the quickest method. Secondly, we offer a solvent-based clear, which comes very close to an OEM color, delivering a nice balance of quality and cost. And lastly, we offer the premium waterborne solution, which will give you the best color, best finish, but requires the most time and skill, as well as being the most costly solution.
In today's video, we'll be demonstrating the air dry product and process, the fastest, lowest cost, and easiest product DIY paint solution we offer.
First thing you're going to need is glass cleaner. This lets you get the panel clean and ready for the repair. The second thing you're going to need is primer. Especially if you go down to the metal, you would definitely need primer, or if you have a deeper scratch and you almost want to use the primer as a filler. The third thing you're going to need is the color. Most important. You're going to want to come prepared with your paint code. If we can't find your paint code, someone at Whitelaw's will help you do that. And then we're going to make up the color for you so you have it when you get home. You're also going to need a tack rag. The tack rag gets rid of the micro dust so it doesn't appear in your paint job. And you'll see in the video following that Mike will show you when to use the microfiber. You're going to need some masking tape. You'll see Mike using masking paper, but also a couple layers of newspaper will do the job nicely as well and keep the cost down. You're going to see a mixer pack of sandpaper. This is for sanding down your primer and your work area, depending on how deep the scratch is and how much repair you have to do. You're going to need shop towels or shop rags or something with low lint. If you don't use something with low lint, you will actually see that lint in your paint job, which would be a real shame after all the work you put into it. Now let's watch Mike complete the repair in a well-ventilated area. He isn't wearing a mask today, so he can speak to you, but always wear a mask when working with paint and chemicals.
Hi, this is Mike from Whitelaw Automotive, and today we're going to show a step-by-step procedure on how to effectively repair some scratches on your vehicle. We're going to use glass cleaner to clean our surface of our panel that we're going to refinish today. It's an inexpensive and everyday product that most people have in their household. It'll get any grease and wax residue off in order to make sure our paint will stick. Okay, as you can see, we have a small scratch in the outer of our right mirror on our vehicle here, and we're going to sand the scratches out and make the edges smooth. We're going to start with a 320 grit. To get the initial scratches out, I like to fold them in 3 just so you've got fresh surfaces as the sandpaper breaks down. So first of all, we're going to sand with the 320 and make sure our edges are clean. And if you go on a circular motion, it cuts quicker. And as you can see, since this is a clear coated finish, it sands white, which is typically on most vehicles that we have. And as we are sanding, as you can see, we're cutting down through into the plastic of the mirror, so that way we're getting the actual scratched paint surface removed and blended out so we don't see any hard lines. And be awful careful when you're sanding, especially with mirrors with black trim. You don't want to sand those areas, so be careful on your edges to make sure that you don't damage your surfaces that you're not refinishing. And it always helps when you're sanding and preparing your panel. Keep a clean rag in your hand and you can wipe off, and you can effectively see how our surface we're getting the surface sanded down and blended out nicely. As you can see, we've got through the clear coat and the base coat. Now we're into the actual fabric or the part of the mirror. This is a very minor scratch, so we can get it with a 320 grit to start. If we had a heavier scratch or a deeper scratch, we could always start with a 240 or 180 and step our way down into a finer grit. Okay, so as you can see, I think I'm really liking the way the finish is turning out here. We've got our scratches gone. You can tell by feeling it once you've got it off. You don't have any scratches left. We've kind of got down into our base and primered area. So I'm very comfortable with that now, that it will not show when the product is refinished. So now, since we're going to paint this entire mirror cap, of course, we're going to have to sand this with I choose a 400. It's a little finer grit again, and that way your paint won't show scratches as you go on further. And I've grabbed a piece of 400 grit sandpaper, and we're going to sand the rest of the surface. Now, if you're not comfortable with doing your edges and being sure, you can always run some masking tape around here first, so you don't hit your surface of your black part of your mirror. Okay. And it's always effective to sand when you're sanding, to keep it sideways. You don't want to sand like this because you'll get finger marks, and that'll show in your finish, okay? So we want to keep it flat, and off to the sides we have a flat, clean, finished surface. So we want to make sure that all our edges are sanded uniformly and properly. You can see as we're sanding how it turns white in this circumstance because of the clear coat. We want to make sure all our edges are nice and clean, sanded, so our paint will stick when we go to apply. You just take the edge of the sandpaper and just work our way around into your edges. So it's a nice, clean, sharp edge of your sandpaper, just to get down into the grooves in order to get our edges all clean and sanded. Okay. Now, you can take your rag, you can have a look. You want to make sure there's no shiny surfaces left. Once you're finished, I'm quite liking that. So our next step is to clean our surface, get any dust off the surface, so when we go to do our priming before we paint, if you have access to a compressor and a blower would be wonderful, but if not everyone has that equipment in their household, I just find a hair dryer, if you can talk your wife into using it or your partner, and we can blow this off and get all the dust out of our nicks and crannies and everything before we mask. Okay, as you can see, our surface looks really good. I'm very happy with that. You can run your hand over, you can feel that the surface is clean. Now we're ready for the next step, which will be priming. Okay, so now our next step is going to mask off the surfaces we don't want any paint or primer on. So we're going to mask all your areas around your mirror, and we're going to put paper past so you don't get overspray on the rest of your vehicle. We're going to use masking paper that most body shop uses. You can use newspaper as such. Just make sure you maybe double up 2 layers because the aerosol or your paint may absorb through it. So we just want to make sure you get it on your surface when you're overspray of your paint. And the more time you spend on your masking and the accuracy of your edges gives you a better finished final product in the end. Okay, now we've got our edges all nice and masked. We can now next go to the stage for the paper. Okay, now we've got our masking done. Okay, we've made sure that our edges are nice and clean. We've gone back, 18 inches or a little bit further on the top. Again, we want to avoid overspray from our aerosols to getting on the rest of your vehicle because it can be very difficult to remove it later on. So first of all, before we do our priming, we're going to take a tack cloth, and they're just a cloth with a bit of a sticky resin to them, as you can see, and all it does is pulls up any light dust that's left on the surface just before we do our priming stage. Today we're going to start with we're going to use a one-step etch primer. It's a non-sanding primer, so we can apply it. It's got good adhesion. It'll adhere to any bare spots that we have. It'll adhere to bare metal if we're on any part of the vehicle that's steel. It's a very good primer for adhesion and filling small scratches. So since we finished our sanding with 400, it's going to fill those scratches immediately. We're going to go with 2 coats. We're going to put 1 coat on, and then we're going to allow 5 to 10 minutes at 20 degrees to do our second coat, and then we'll be ready for paint. Make sure you give your tip a little prime so it's everything good. We're going to stand back maybe 12 inches to start, just a light coat. Okay, it won't be a complete cover coat for the first one, as we can still see a little bit blue through, but that's perfect. We're going to let that set up and wait for our second coat. Okay, it's now been 5 minutes. We're going to give our second coat of etch primer. The same procedure as we used for the first coat. Give it a little shake, about 12 inches away. Just even, watch your overlap so you don't get runs in it. Okay, now you can see our surface is pretty much covered. And now we should be good for a paint step. Make sure when we're doing the prime and paint stage that if you're using it in a confined area or there's poor ventilation, it's always best to use a respirator. Okay, we've let our primer dry for 20 minutes, room temperature. It's dried to the touch. You can see it's flashed off, meaning that the sheen is gone from your primer, so that's a good indication that we're ready to rock for our top coat. Again, we're going to take the tack rag that we used before we prepped and primed. We're just going to tack off any dust that might have landed on it in the process. Feels really good. Now we're going to use our single stage, non-clear coated paint that we can apply with hopefully 3 coats to get coverage. I'll show you how it works. It is a metallic or a pearl coat in this color, so we want to make sure that we have our distance far enough so our metallics show uniformity and not blotchiness. We'll shake the aerosol and purge the tip, and we're going to do the same procedure as we did with the primer. We're going to be back about 12 inches. Make sure you get your edges nice. Okay, and we're just going to walk away and let that sit. So we've waited approximately 5 minutes. You can always do a little test on your masking paper to make sure that your first coat is dry, which it is. We're going to carry on with coat number 2. Again, you can start with the edges if you like to make sure all your edges are covered. Okay, that's coat number 2. We're going to walk away. We've let that set another approximately 5 minutes. That was 2 coats. I'm going to give it 1 more coat. I just use an indicator even when you've got your masking tape to your, if you use newspaper, you can see, if you can see a slight different color between your tape and your paper, you know you're not quite hidden. This, I think we've almost got it. I'm going to give it 1 more coat just to ensure the extra protection and also proper coverage. So our last coat, the same as the first 2. Again, we'll start with our edges. Make sure they're covered. These are 12 inches approximately. And you can see with your metallic or your pearl in the paint, if it's all uniform and looks not blotchy, we'll say, then you've got a good coverage. So I'm gonna just finish that. I'm gonna walk away. I'm happy with that.
I hope this video was helpful. Be sure to check out the rest of our YouTube channel, and you can find our paints and supplies at 3 southwestern Ontario locations: Woodstock, Cambridge, and Paris.